Hey guys, there is no way to beat around the bush in regards to what we are about to discuss. I know there is a good portion of Catholics in my audience, and I want to ask you guys to remain as open-minded as possible during this episode. It will be controversial for many people, as it deals with sex abuse, housing, and the Vatican. Nothing of what I am about to say is in any way an attack towards your faith. I will simply analyze the situation from an objective point of view, and any criticisms are directly at the institution of the Vatican itself. You see, Pandora papers revealed that nearly $300 million were hidden overseas for the Vatican while they were fighting off sex abuse claims that were making headlines around the globe a little while back. A deeper look into the situation reveals a huge scheme in which the church has been kicking out thousands of tenants around the United States during the worst times in the pandemic, as their aim was to maximize profits and investments in rental properties. Today's tale is an ugly and quite barbaric one. I want to thank Spencer Woodman for his hard work, which inspired me into making this video. Before we start, let me quickly state that I am not a financial advisor, and that all content discussed in this channel is simply information gathered that I deem important for people to know, so that they can make informed decisions. All efforts are aimed to better understand the nature of the current market in anticipation of the greatest squeeze in financial history. Let's get started. A stockpile of leaked documents reviewed by the International Consortium of Investigative Journalists and around 150 media partners have uncovered an unprecedented view into the global scheme that aims to take away home ownership from people and turn them into renters. Through shell companies controlled by anonymous investors, these financial institutions want to turn rent payments into a huge profit business venture. In this channel, we have talked at great lengths about how Wall Street is keen on keeping the middle and lower class away from home ownership through a myriad of tactics. Today we are taking aim at a new revelation in the Pandora leaked documents that include offshore trusts holding hundreds of millions of dollars for the Legion of Christ, which is a wealthy Roman Catholic order that was internationally disgraced after scandals surged that they have a worldwide pedophilia ring. Records show that the trust took a position as secret partner in the ownership of multiple apartment complexes, which worked with the landlords to invest millions back in 2015. This trust also invested millions more in other residential building in Florida, Texas, Iowa, Indiana, Illinois. You see, careful examination of records shows that back in 2010, when the Vatican announced that it would cease operations of the troubled order and launch an investigation, the Legion of Christ quickly began to set up trusts designed to secretly hold money. Two of the trusts moved millions of dollars around the world, including more than $14 million being funneled into investments in apartment complexes. The two trusts hold a combined $300 million in assets devoted solely for the Legion of Christ, according to leaked records. This comes at a time when victims of the many rampant sexual abuses by the priests of the Legion were also seeking financial compensation from the order through lawsuits and through commissions that were overseen by the Vatican. To make things more cringe, when asked if the Legion discloses the trusts to the Vatican, the order stated, and I quote, "Religious institutes do not have an obligation to send detailed information to the Vatican regarding their internal financial decisions or organization." The Legion further stated and acknowledged that it had set up one of the three trusts, but that at some point it had distanced itself from the other two, which held the majority of the funds. The Legion then said they have no knowledge of the other two trusts' operations. A spokesperson said the secret trusts were strictly charitable and devoted to support elderly priests and other Catholic causes, and that the trusts only made charitable distributions. As you guys should already be able to tell, these trusts are engaging in a lot of weird activity, and are involved with members of a huge worldwide pedophilia ring. The Vatican and the Legion of Christ are both unwilling to provide any clarification or documentation in any regard, and instead have opted out to giving some generic PR response to questions being raised. However, this has not stopped many journalists, and by tracking and tracing back records of the Legion of Christ, a new trove of data has been unearthed. A series of various wealthy investors have been using these offshore entities to channel money into real estate. They are part of the growing group of investors taking place in real estate ventures that too frequently use hardball tactics to maximize the rate of return from properties occupied by medium and low-income renters. If you didn't think things were grim before, please buckle up. A review of these properties concluded that they have a huge amount of problems that include flooding, mold, broken appliances, mildew, and even dangerous elevators. Upon looking through court cases in Florida alone, it appears managers have added steep penalties on late rental payments and have been pursuing rapid evictions of tenants who do not pay on time. It appears that eviction notices are a go-to tool to manage tenants, and increased efforts have been made to make it difficult for tenants to reach customer service. In a statement, BH Management said they adhere to the lease agreements they made in conjunction with the law, which include CDC order on evictions. You see, the reason why renters are being dragged through the mud is because these firms promise their investors, like the ones in the Legion of Christ trusts, that they will have high returns on investments. As such, this leads to renters being squeezed and punished in extreme methods so that every nickel can be derived from them. If you thought that problems would end once they made it impossible for you to own a house, think again. Renting is about to become a full nightmare scenario for everyone in the coming years. Let's take it a step back and go back to the origins of the Legion of Christ. Let's start from the very beginning, and all of this will make better sense. The Legion of Christ was founded in Mexico in 1941, and was a Catholic order that would become known for its intense focus on courting wealthy patrons. So much so that people actually started calling the order, the Millionaires of Christ. Its founder, Marcial Maciel, would become the greatest fund raises in the modern church, as well as its biggest criminal. Due to his charisma, a cult of personality started growing around him. He grew ties to Vatican officials, wealthy Catholics and even politicians such as Jeb Bush, former Senator Rick Santorum and many other prominent people. In 1997, two reporters wrote a front-page story that exposed Maciel's decades of sexual predatory abuse, reporting that 9 men had come forward to accuse him of sexually abusing them when they were boys or young men in training. After years of being constantly accused of raping little boys, the Vatican decided that it was becoming a PR nightmare for them, and instead started a formal investigation of nearly 100 abuse allegations against Maciel. They eventually removed him from the ministry while ordering him to adopt a life of prayer and penitence. Even after his death, the Legion of Christ was viewed as a liability for the Vatican, especially after a multitude of women came forth revealing that he had fathered several children. During all this scrutiny, the leadership was passed to a man named Garza, who was the financial engineer for the complex finances of the order. After graduating from Stanford University, Garza rose quickly through the ranks. After a bunch of high-profile lawsuits ensued the order, Garza quietly established the first of the 3 secretive trusts in New Zealand that would hold money for the Legion. It has been thought that the Vatican thought the order was low on money. As the time these trusts were established, New Zealand was the destination for many people seeking to hide money in offshore trusts. Garza's sister, Roberta Garza, who left the Legion, was interviewed and said that the Legion uses offshore structures to divert religious and charitable money for more self-serving purposes. She stated, and I quote, "A lot of their money was held outside the Legion by their financiers, by people with power of attorney who are completely faithful to the Legion, so you are never going to find it." A spokesperson for the Legion quickly dismissed her comments, saying she had no proof of any offshore structures. The Pandora Papers have now revealed some of the investments opportunities that the Legion has taken. Assets from 2 of their trusts have been shuttled around the world, with many going into American rental properties. Through Pensum Capital, the trusts have invested in 8 apartment complexes across many states. In a leaked document, Pensum is shown as aiming for a rate of return at 15% annually from its rental properties, a yield that far outpaces normal stock market returns by twice. This ties back to what I talked about earlier when I said tenants are being faced with high punitive costs. It's because the return on investment is so incredibly high. Other investments have also taken place, including big stakes or chains for rehab facilities, a Texas-based medical device company and even a Mexican nutritional supplements company. The entire structure of the trusts is to make the investment clouded in secrecy while also allowing for the Legion to legally distance itself from the vast wealth it's creating in the event they are taken to court. Trusts allow for investors to enjoy the best of investments without many of the downsides of technically owning the money, like paying for taxes. On paper, they can say they have nothing to do with them. So, you might be wondering, how did a New Zealand-based trust manage to carry out investments all the way in the United States? The clever geniuses are using a Delaware shell company called Lowndes Holdings, which contain no trace of its relationship to the trusts or the Legion. Under their filings to the Internal Revenue Service, the trust claims tax evasions under the premise that they are a purely charitable and religious organization. They are getting away with all of this because, as explained in some of the previous Pandora paper videos, there is little to no oversight for trusts due to the amount of legislation they proposed that has been passed onto law. If still unclear how this affects you, think about homeownership. These investors, many which are members of Wall Street, are making sure to accelerate the pace by which they take away possibilities for home ownership from the middle and lower class. Furthermore, renting as it has been is not enough, because there is always more money to be made. As such, they are engaging in manipulating the entire rental system so that problems arise so that people have problems, which they then can easily use as excuse to pass on high fees. The Legion of Christ, an organization embedded in giant pedophilia rings, has some of the best trusts in the world that are making them insane profits. They are headed by a man who has been rumored to be a serious drug addict, and they are hurting our economy. What can be done about this? Nothing directly from us, but already we are seeing politicians raise questions as these documents gain more notoriety, which is why, for the sake of helping bring attention to this, I will ask you to share this video with at least one person. Though not the happiest topic, it is among the most important subjects I have covered. The Vatican is extremely unhelpful throughout the process, which comes as no surprise given the amount of scandals that they themselves face and them also not wanting to be associated with this type of conversation. We are living in a nightmare scenario, and we are slowly waking up to it. Thank you all for watching the video to the end. You guys are all amazing. If you want to support the channel, I have left links in the description for my Patreon if you would like to pledge a monthly support of any amount you want. I also left a PayPal and Cash App link if you want to make a one-time donation. Have a great day. See you in the afternoon and to the moon.